How you doing, folks?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Sarah?
Pretty well.
Now, do you have any reaction to last week's session?
Yeah, I mean, I felt relieved that there feels like a little bit of hope or something to communicate better.
Good.
So
Yeah.
Do you have any reaction to it, Tom?
Yeah, I think we definitely left here feeling a lot closer, feeling that both of us
Yeah.
had, you know, we wanted to make it work, and so we invested the time to try to talk to you and learn about what we can do to get along better. So I think that as soon as we left here, there was a closeness between us, definitely, that we didn't have before we got here.
We've struggled to try to keep it, but
Yeah.
You didn't get a chance to watch the session
No.
Not
last
yet,
week,
no,
okay?
sorry.
Was there some resistance to watching it?
No, no.
It
at all,
really was
actually.
scheduling.
Was
We got it
scheduling.
on Wednesday, and between us both,
Yeah.
have been a very,
Yeah,
very
we
crazy
had a little
week.
trouble getting it out to you.
Yeah.
So we'll try to get it out to you as fast as we can,
Sure,
and
but we wanna
if you
watch
get a
it.
chance to
We
watch
really
it,
do.
We will,
it
for
would be
sure.
helpful. Okay. A couple of questions that I forgot to ask last week that I would like to ask is, one of them is, are drugs and alcohol a problem in your relationship? Anybody use drugs or alcohol excessively so it bothers the other person?
I don't know about drugs, but sometimes alcohol or kind of, cigarettes, alcohol.
Well, cigarettes are bad for your health, right? So is
Mm-hmm.
alcohol. But that's
A
not what,
night
this
out.
isn't a health lesson. This is, because alcohol, sometimes if you're drinking every day and using alcohol excessively, it can interfere with having a close, intimate, warm, loving, caring, deep, meaningful relationship. So, do either of you drink every day?
We do
Yeah.
periods of time we drink every day, and
Do you
at
drink
times
to a
when
point
we
where you get intoxicated?
not necessarily.
No, I think,
no.
we have a glass or two of wine with dinner
Okay.
when we get home from work.
Okay. All right, well, we'll keep an eye on that, because if, the only interest I have is in making sure that you're not using something to
coping
avoid
with
having a
that.
close, intimate relationship, right?
Right.
The other question I had is, were there any, this is sort of a global question, were there any traumas or injuries, medical problems, or other issues that we didn't touch last week? One of you having an affair and the other person still mad about it, or something.
Oh, not really.
Not between us, no.
Yeah,
I
between
know
you.
Between us.
I have some pain, and I know I'm damaged in some way from, I told you last week, my
Yeah.
past relationship where,
The 4-year relationship with
yeah,
that
where
woman.
she pretty much, we separated and she started to be with my best friend at the time, so.
She started after you separated, or were you
Well,
still together?
it was still pretty rocky because we were in a tough, we were kind of in a state of, we
You
both
said,
loved
but you
each other.
separated first, though, and then that's when they started.
That's where we disagree. She says we were on a break, and I say, well, we were still together, and
I see.
so.
Okay. Do you still see her?
I see her every once in a while, probably about once a year.
Oh, okay. You have feelings for her still?
No, not in that way.
Okay.
I don't yearn to be with her or
Do you have
at
any
all.
jealousy toward that woman?
Yeah, I do.
What's the concern?
It's funny because I don't typically experience jealousy, but with her, I don't. I feel like Tom's very. She, they have MySpace. They have these different ways of staying in contact with people, and I feel like maybe she has. She often they talk on the phone sometimes, and they're friends, and were really close, and they shared a lot between each other. But I feel like she hurt him so badly, and I'm glad that he's forgiven her, and I trust him completely, but I don't necessarily trust her. And I feel like when I don't mind that they have a friendship, but I feel like I can't control her, and I can't tell her what to do. I've never met her. And
But your concern is that she's still interested in Tom?
she's still interested in obviously being friends with him, and reminiscing about his family and his.
Is she interested in more than that?
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
But it's just when I feel stress about it, I feel like he doesn't necessarily help to pacify it. He tells me not to worry, and that's true, and you do try to pacify it in that way, but I feel like, you know,
When was the last time you had stress about it?
probably like 2 or 3 months ago,
About 2 or 3 months ago.
around
Okay.
the holiday season, she was posting a lot of comments, like, to your sister and to you, and just kept, like, you know,
Okay.
like,
What would you like to ask her, Tom?
Well, I mean, in a way, you know, I understand how she's feeling because
Let's do it anyway, because there's process and there's content, right? And when we're talking about process, that's the interactional process where you listen, you talk, you listen, you talk, you know, so forth. And then there's content, which is the issue that we're talking about. So you might understand around this content what it is that's bothering her and not bothering her. On the other hand, let's play it out anyway, because there's process. And one of the things that I want you to learn how to do is to develop a very effective way of being able to interact and be empathic and sensitive and caring and loving toward each other.
Right.
So what would you like to ask her?
why do you get so jealous of her?
ultimately, I feel it's because I still deal with the residue of the pain, and she's forgiven and isn't responsible anymore.
You're dealing with the residue of the pain. I mean, he feels the pain and somehow it's affecting you.
Yes.
Okay, what would you like to ask her, Tom? How does my pain affect you? Isn't that what you said? Your pain affects you.
How does my pain affect you?
I feel like you don't trust me sometimes for reasons that aren't to do with my being and my way of, you know, I feel like that comes from that situation. And, you know, since the beginning of our relationship, you've held back, I feel like, closeness. We started talking about that when I still lived in New York. And you've always sort of stated that you're not sure you can ever be that close with anyone again. And I somehow feel that relationship is somewhat responsible for that. Maybe it was like that with you and her too, but, you know, when I see comments that she, you know, she lived with you, she's spent so much time with you, you've done all these things together, and it really frustrates me that I feel like I can't achieve those things with you because of the hurt that you have from her. And then when I feel those things, it just, I want her to, I wish that you could, I don't know. I don't want her to be a part of your life because she doesn't deserve to be, in my mind.
But one of the things that's bothering you is that the pain that he felt
Yeah.
toward that woman
Right.
causes him to not trust that he can have a close, intimate relationship with you.
Right.
That is, you are not capable of doing that.
Yeah, I
So
think
he
that's
has
the
some distance in
fundamental
the
reason.
relationship.
Yeah.
And that interferes with your being able to have a close, intimate relationship
Right.
with him. Okay. Do you see yourself as having any problems in having closeness with him?
Yeah, I feel like there are other issues that I have with being close to him.
Like what?
You know, I guess I'm a very independent-minded person, and I tend to take on burdens on my own, and I maybe don't support him enough in some of his own burdens because
Support him in his what?
his own burdens in life. And,
Okay.
you know, I can kind of function, I guess, independently. I feel that I can, and I sometimes do, and I get very caught up with that, and I'm not the most tender person because of it. And so, I mean,
So do you feel that there's some distance that between you and Sarah?
Sure.
And on her part, I mean, is there
Yeah.
something that she does to put distance in a relationship?
Well, I think that what she was just saying is definitely a way. I think she's so used to being independent, and I guess it's hard for us to come together because, for instance, I'm a person who has had long relationship after long relationship. So in my mind, and this is probably not necessarily right, but in my mind, there's just certain things about a relationship and certain things that just become understood and that you just do for each other and that you can say to each other. And I often feel like, when I try to bring that into this relationship, Sarah is easily feels like I'm trying to control her. And a lot of times I want to say, we're a unit, we're a couple, so we should.
Can you think of a time when that happened recently? Did you have any difficulties this week? Any arguments? Any problems?
It's about smoking.
Okay. Who smokes?
We both do sometimes.
Both do. Okay. What was the issue around smoking?
We used to both smoke a lot of cigarettes regularly, and I quit a couple years ago, and I quit solidly for about 9 months, and like started dabbling in it here and there, and like Tom also quit and started dabbling in it.
Yeah, I quit for 3 years, and then basically we started smoking when we were drinking out at social events. We'd have a cigarette.
Right.
And
it's, you buy the smokes and you're better at keeping it to like 1 or 2 while you drink, and then when they're around me, I tend to smoke more of them, and I need to not have them around if I don't want to smoke.
And so I
Okay,
tried
so
to
did-
tell her,
that
what to
caused,
do.
I say, don't
Well,
do that.
yeah.
Let's not smoke. Please don't
And
smoke.
I'm like, it's one more than you
And-
had, so why
and
do you care, like,
She feels like I'm trying to control her, and she does not
Okay. What do you want to ask her?
like it at all. I mean, we've had this conversation so many. It happens it happens not just with cigarettes. Like, it'll be with anything that
you want me to show more restraint.
Yeah, in most cases, it's like I want her to show a little bit more restraint and have a little bit more willpower, because she's, in my opinion, very easily convinced. She's got work to do and she's got a project, but someone calls and says, let's go out. She'll easily be convinced to go out. Or someone's in front of her smoking, she'll be instantly will want to have a cigarette. Or there's
Okay, so we have 2 pieces here, right? One is that you feel controlled, and 2 is it bothers you that she isn't more under control. Okay?
Yes.
Which one do you want to pick up on? Let's ask Sarah how she feels about being controlled.
I feel like maybe
Tell Tom.
I definitely, I guess I have issues with self-discipline, but I feel like it's sort of minuscule in light of what I do and who I am. And I do resist temptation sometimes, but I feel like you draw in bigger, comparisons. You compare me to much larger situations that aren't really problems between us. And I feel like you're always telling me what to do because you're afraid of those turning into bigger problems like these issues, and they don't. And I feel like there's always
So what
something.
bothers you about, what you're talking about is him, right?
Yeah.
So what bothers you about his worrying about this turning into bigger issues, about his
I wish he
trying
would
to get
just
you to stop
trust me
doing something?
and lay
It's-
off, basically.
It's because he doesn't trust you,
Right.
okay? You
He
said that
doesn't think I
before.
have good judgment.
Okay.
I feel like, he
Is that
doesn't.
right? You don't think she has good judgment?
Well, I think she's got good judgment, but I often feel like she should have better judgment.
Okay.
I don't think you're a fool. I think that you're...
Okay,
you-
so what do you want to ask her? How's it feel when I think you don't have good judgment? Isn't that what he said? Isn't what you said? Okay, that's what he said. Not that you don't have good judgment, but you could have better judgment, is what you said.
Mhm.
But what we want to do is trace the perception. You want to find out about the inner world of another person. You pick up the perception that they have, and you track that back. Freud said the dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. Walter E. Brockelman says perception is the royal road to the inner world. So her perception is, say it again, what did you say, Sarah?
That I'm not trusted.
Okay, so what would you say? How does it feel when I don't trust you? Isn't that what you said? That's her perception. Okay, so if we want to understand what goes on inside of her, we have to track her perception. Okay? You'd like to know what it feels like, what goes on inside of you when you're not trusted by the man you love, the one you live
I
with,
feel trapped.
the person you would like to think about marrying.
I feel trapped. I feel unaccepted, and I
Trapped and unaccepted.
yeah.
Okay?
I feel like it's a little suffocated, you know, because I'm not, I don't feel like I'm a trustworthy person.
Trapped, suffocated.
And I feel like it's kind of unjust that that you can't trust me to make decisions for myself, even if I make mistakes and even if I make different decisions than you do. I still function. I feel like fairly well, you know, like I feel like I'm a good person, that it doesn't.
Now what you're doing, now you're in your head right now,
Yeah.
right? Your head tells you all those things, and you're correct about those. You're a nice person, you try to do the right thing, and so forth. But what's the feeling inside of you?
Right.
That you want to transmit the feeling to them. That's what makes a relationship special. When you can talk about what goes on inside of you, and you can talk about what goes on inside of you, and you can each understand what the other person is doing and stay tuned into him.
Right.
So,
You know, I
so
feel
how does it feel when he doesn't trust you?
I feel
You said that it
suffocated,
makes you
yeah.
feel suffocated. You said it makes you feel not accepted.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What do you want to ask her, Tom? See, those things are about you. I mean, suffocated is really something she feels, but being unaccepted is you. She feels you don't accept her.
It's hard for me to want to ask her anything
I know.
at this point
I
because
know.
I want to. I guess when she says that, I start to feel things that I want to say as well, but they're not. And not. I don't want to. I mean,
It would be like this, right? I don't like that brown cup, you say to her. And she says to you, what brown cup? Right? So in other words, if you can't agree upon the reality of this, what do you do?
Right.
What do most people do?
fight, dance
Argue
around.
about
in
it
Don't
all
they?
the time.
Don't they fight? You're going to prove to her that she says, I don't feel accepted by you. Now, that's not what's going on inside of you. That's not how you feel, right? You feel that you love her, care about her, and accept her. But that's not what she said. She said, it's a brown cup. You don't see the brown cup. In other words, you don't agree with the reality. So what do? What most people do is they argue about it. You're going to try to prove who's right.
Right.
Will that accomplish anything? Have you ever accomplished anything trying to do that?
No.
I've been doing this for 40 years. I've never seen it work once. So why do we do it? We do it for two reasons. One is because if I'm right and you're wrong, your self-esteem goes down, mine goes up. I like that. The other way around, my self-esteem goes down and yours goes up. I don't like that too well. And the other reason is because if you're right and I'm wrong, then I need to give in to you. If I care about you and I want to have a good relationship with you, I say, you know what, you're right. Now what I'm doing is giving up a portion of myself, and that can feel like I'm giving up the totality of me, which means it feels as if we're into our unconscious now. We're into that closeness. Remember I talked about that closeness last week? Come together, form a oneness and a separateness and the oneness. So it means that it feels as if I'm going to give up the totality of me. I'm going to disappear, swallow up, remember you used that term a few minutes ago, and die. Well, I don't want to do that. So I fight to the death in order to prove that I'm right for those reasons which make no sense at all. So what do you do? What's a much more constructive thing to do? When she says, you don't accept me, Tom. What would be a better thing to do? Accept her perception. Not that she's right. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's her perception. So what would you do with that? Step over the perceptual line, join her in her perceptual world, accept her perception, and track it back to her inner world. So what question would you ask?
What do I do that makes you feel trapped and suffocated?
You can do that. That's not a bad question. In fact, it's a good question. I don't recommend it, and I'll tell you why. That's what I call self-listening. You're now asking her to talk about you. Why do you think that I'm not accepting of you? Perfectly legitimate. The problem is you have to let down your defenses. You have to encourage her to talk about you and what goes on inside of you without being defensive. And you have to listen and follow this next part. You have to listen until you've proven she's right. Not wrong, right. Because most of the time when people ask that question, they're asking it for purposes of gathering information so they can nail you to the wall. That's not good. But if you listen with the idea of trying to understand where her perception came from, that is good. And the reason that's good is meaning that her perception is right. And the reason that's good is because if I know what it is that I'm doing that causes you pain, right, unacceptable, then if I figure that out, because I don't know what I'm doing when you first tell me that, but if I can figure it out, then I can change. I can do something different so that you won't feel any pain. But let's not take that one, because that's really a hard one. Let's do the easier one, which is called other listening, which means that you're going to listen to what goes on inside of her. So you would say to her, instead of, why do you think I'm trustworthy, not acceptable, why do you think I don't accept you, you would say to her, how does it feel when I don't accept you? Right? That's our perception. Okay? People don't like to do this, Tom. You don't like to do this.
It's hard to do.
I know, it's very hard.
It's hard
But see,
to
the
get
other
in
one
that
doesn't go
mind
anywhere.
state. Right, I understand.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
I said it's hard to get in that mind state because
That's
when you
correct.
feel that you feel you're right or whatever, or
Exactly.
you have a whole list of feelings and reasons why you act the way you do, it's very difficult to jump into that mind state
That's
and
correct.
let all your stuff go and go into that
That's right.
person.
We call it counterintuitive. Right? Intuitive means it feels natural. What I'm trying to teach you is counterintuitive.
Right.
It doesn't feel natural. Years ago, I was teaching, and a man with gray hair, I didn't have gray hair at the time, a man with gray hair in the back of the room said to me when I was teaching him some of these things about talking and listening, he said, you know, it's easy for you to say, you're not married to my wife. And I said, you're right, I'm not. But that's right, it makes it easier because I don't have all the complicated emotions going on between you and your wife. And he said the other thing is that this feels very stilted, artificial, and unnatural. And I said, you know why it feels stilted, artificial, and unnatural? Because it is stilted, artificial, and unnatural. So you have to sort of go with it and try. All right, so step over the line and ask her the question. How does it feel
How does it feel
When
I'm
not accepting of
when
you?
I'm not accepting of you?
How does it feel when I'm not accepting of you? How
Feels
does it
like
feel?
you don't know me.
What does it feel when I don't know you? Tom would like to know.
It feels like you want me to be someone else. Or want me to, you know,
Be
something-
somewhere else?
Be someone else.
Be someone else, yes. Okay. Does that bother you?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you want to ask her?
I mean, do
She
I
said-
just?
Yeah.
It's just so difficult
I
because
know. I know.
at this point, what do I say? Do I say what?
Does it feel like?
What does it feel like
when I want you to be someone else?
Want you to be
Do you want her to be someone else?
It's so difficult to get in that
I
mind
know.
state. I can't
I
do
know.
it.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I just need to
You just have to
practice it.
grab. You have
It's
to
like-
grab hold of the notion that I'm talking about. That there's no value in arguing with her. There is none. If you wanted to, we could waste 5 minutes or so, and I'll let you go and do it the natural way. But let's not do that. But you would find that you're going to go nowhere. You're going to now argue with her and tell her that she's wrong. You're wrong. I don't feel that way about you. I'm very accepting of you.
So, how does it feel when make you when I want you to be somebody
Someone else.
Feels like you don't
Wait,
love
hold
me.
on, hold on for a second. That's not what she said. What she said is that she feels like, oh no, that's right, she did say that, didn't she? You want her to feel like she's 20, oh, sorry, scratch that, go, you're right. Okay, go ahead, why don't you answer the question?
It feels like you can't love me for who I am. You know, I feel like that I have to be someone else for you to really
Okay.
love me and to accept me.
Okay, who are you?
I'm a person with flaws, and I make
With flaws, did you say?
flaws. Yes,
Okay, tell them, what are your flaws?
I
Does anyone else in this
have a
room
harder time resisting temptation sometimes, and I struggle with it, and I need your support, but I feel like nagging me and telling me what to do all the time isn't the way to help me with that.
So what does it feel like when he nags? What feelings about yourself, Sarah, get touched when he nags you and tells you that you're not good enough or doing it wrong or...
That I don't have a way of doing things that he will accept. And that even if I have some, it's okay.
I got a box full.
It's cool. That it's just hard for me to I think fix myself when I'm always trying to have to please him too. In the ways that he wants me to, I feel like I have to try my own ways to help myself versus how he feels I should do it. And
How's it feel when you have to please him? What feelings get touched inside of you?
I feel like I spend more energy thinking about that than I can think about making myself better. Because
And if you don't please him, then how do you feel?
then I feel like I will never be truly close to him. And I feel like
That
I'll
he will
always
not- that he
struggle
will not
with
love
it.
you.
Yeah.
So you have to perform in a certain way that pleases him, and if you don't do
Right.
that, then he won't love you,
Right.
which means that you have some concerns that he doesn't love you.
Yeah. But I feel like he takes me for granted in that way because he focuses so much on all of the little things that I do that irritate him, and I feel like I don't hear enough from him what things are good and what positive values I do have. So I think it's more difficult for me to even listen to suggestions and advice that he does want to offer because I feel like I always hear them more than
So
anything else.
she's really concerned, isn't she, that she's not okay? And she's concerned that if she behaves the way she behaves, if she is who she is, if she feels what she feels, if she reveals what goes on inside of her, all that stuff, that you won't love her. That you will only love her performance. If she does the right thing, behaves in the correct way, then you'll love her. Were you a good girl when you were growing up?
Yeah.
And you had to do what your parents said, otherwise you'd get in trouble?
Yeah.
If you didn't perform right, then they would get mad at you?
Yes.
We bring our unresolved problems into a relationship. I think I told you that last time, didn't I?
Very much my father.
Your father was the one who was like that?
Yeah.
Right? In all marriages or all relationships, we have a number of problems. Communication problems, problems with closeness, fear of abandonment, fear of envelopment, unresolved problems from childhood. Bring your father into there, then he behaves in a certain way, and he becomes your father. He doesn't look like your father, he doesn't walk like your father, he doesn't talk like your father.
We've
He
identified
becomes
that
your father.
so many times.
Oh, you have?
She calls
Ah.
me, she says, "You're not my dad. You don't talk to me like that. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my
And
dad."
what you would say to her, and this is in the most loving way, not countering her, what you would say to her then is, you know, sweetheart, you're absolutely right. But what you need to do is to stop unconsciously provoking me into doing and behaving in ways that are like your father, and then you get mad at me because what you're trying to do is fix your relationship with your father when you were a child. And it's not going to work, right? We unconsciously go out and seek somebody so that we can recreate with that person a relationship which is similar in part to the relationship that we had with the parent or parents of conflict, in this case your father, for purposes of fixing our childhood. Good luck.
Subconsciously, right?
That's right, unconsciously. Freud changed subconscious to unconscious because you want to make the point that it's absolutely out of awareness. So let's switch. What would you like to ask Tom?
How does it make you feel when I make bad decisions and, not resist temptation?
Yeah, good question. That's exactly what I would... how does it feel? It bothers you, Tom, right?
Well, it bothers me in several different ways. It bothers me, one, because I feel like, partly because it's a reflection on me when you make a bad decision. And
Makes you look bad.
it makes me look bad, but
You mean to
not
other
only
people?
that, but it it like wounds or bruises my inner ego that I have with myself, that I think, why
It bruises your inner ego.
I'm trying to get at
Your
it.
self-esteem? Is that,
Yeah,
is
maybe
that what you mean by ego,
it-
self-esteem?
It makes me feel like, why can't she just like make the right decision? Why can't she be smarter? Why can't she?
We're trying to pursue that one, right? When you ask a question like that, you're really not asking a question. What you're saying is, I don't like it the way she behaves. It's wrong. She should be able to control herself, and then I'll be okay. And we're back to something you said last time. Remember, you said, that's not how I would behave. Well, that wouldn't be how you would behave, right? You would control yourself. Sarah's having trouble. It's not that she doesn't want to do it, but she's having trouble with that, so we need to help her. We need to understand what it's about and then see what we can do to help her with that. That's what she would like. It bothers you, though, when she doesn't do it. So I'm trying to get a feel for what goes on inside of you.
I guess sometimes when she doesn't make the right decision, I wonder if I can accept her for the way that she is. And I guess it makes me feel sometimes less close to her, because I feel that if we were closer, or if we truly had the bond that maybe is unattainable, I would think she would make those decisions on her own. She'd make the right decisions, and instead of looking down on her and be like, oh, why'd you do that? Why'd you make that bad decision? I would instead look up to her and
This is a little bit off the wall. Is it possible that that the two of you have a problem with closeness and intimacy, and that part of what you're doing when you see things wrong in her, and that she needs to change those things, is to grab hold of those things so that you can use those as ways of not getting closer to her? Your
it's
piece in the
possible.
problem.
I mean, yeah.
See, it's not one of you that's doing this. It's the two of you that are unconsciously interacting with each other and are building this relationship, because you're in the very early stages of it. So you pick somebody who wants you to be different than what you are, which makes it very uncomfortable for you. And you pick somebody who doesn't quite perform in the way that you would like her to perform. And it enables both of you to maintain a certain distance in your relationship. Say something more about what it feels like when, what goes on inside of you when she doesn't perform in the way you'd like her to.
Well, I feel disappointed, and I feel less close to her, because in my mind I feel like if we were closer, she would think like me, I guess, and make the right decision. And so I feel
And there
like,
you are again. If she were closer to me, she would think like me and make the right decisions.
it's twisted. I'm sure it sounds.
None of it's twisted.
It sounds crazy.
If she were
but-
closer to you, then, and she were more intimate with you rather than closer. Closer means this, right?
Okay.
The unconscious coming together and forming this bond, where when you have that bond, there's a feeling of bliss, contentment, oceanic oneness. When you have problems with that bond, right? You have two people come together and form that bond, you can see you both disappear. So there's problems with envelopment, and also, if I open myself up to you, then you can leave me, which would mean I'll feel cut in half with a bandsaw, and so I can feel abandoned, which is extremely painful. Intimacy is a different process. Intimacy is a conscious process of trying to understand who the other person is as separate from self, and at the same time conveying to that person who you are as a separate autonomous person, and vice versa. I told you last time that I would give you the dialogue of intimacy exercise. I'm going to hold it, and we'll do it next time, but I will do it next time. And I'll teach you about what intimacy is about. So what you're striving for is greater intimacy through the dialogue of intimacy. And with that, you are building a closer, intimate relationship. What you're not trying to do is to get closer for purposes of the two of you becoming the same. If anything, it's the opposite, isn't it? If you can convey to Tom exactly who you are and what goes on inside of you, and what you think and what you feel and what bothers you and who you are, and if he accepts you. One of the cardinal principles of effective communication in relationships is to be accepting of the other person. And the same with you, and you accept him. Now, it isn't that you're the same person. You really have become very different people with understanding and acceptance of each other. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to change. If you don't like what you're doing, change. But you can't change her, can you? And you can't change him. And I can't change either one of you. But you can change if you want to. So one of the interesting questions is, if you don't like what you're doing, if you don't like having this difficulty in controlling your behavior, why aren't you controlling it?
I feel right now it's been difficult because of our relationship and our stress, and when I feel like I struggle with that,
And because you're mad at Tom.
yeah.
And because you're angry with Tom because he's trying to control you. And because you are trying to resist
Yeah.
losing yourself in this relationship.
Yeah.
And so your only way of being able to handle that, because you don't know how to
Disappear.
empathically connect,
Right.
and since you don't want to disappear by doing exactly what he wants you to do, then you have to resist him. And you have to say no. And the way you say no is that you go out and drink or smoke cigarettes or whatever you're doing.
Right.
You don't have to drink or smoke cigarettes.
I know.
You can be yourself in a very different way. She's afraid that if she keeps doing what you want, then it'll be like it was when she was with her father. And she won't be able to exist in a relationship. And if she did that, it would be a ticking time bomb. Because it's only a question of time when somebody who does that can't tolerate it any longer and explodes.
Sure.
And they say, I can't do this anymore.
Sure.
So what she's doing by acting out like that is actually trying to stay in the relationship. It's just that you don't have to do it that way. Sarah, I'll teach you how to do it a different way. What are you feeling right now?
I feel like I can change, and I feel like I can improve myself, but I need his positive support. And I think that if I mess up, if I do something wrong, as soon as I do, he's the first person to point out to me.
It's true.
And I feel like I
That's
have
when
no
you-
breathing room.
That's right. That's when she becomes the child and you become the parent, right? And what we want to do is keep the two of you as adults. No parents, no children, just adults.
Right.
So how can I, when I'm feeling like I am dealing with a child sometimes, how can I not, and I mean that, I
I
don't
know.
mean that.
I'm just
I
thinking
just
about
mean-
all the
Do
times
what
I've talked
I'm
about it.
teaching you to do here, Tom. To turn to her and say, let's talk, sweetie pie. You want to do that? Is that what you want? She says, no. Okay. Tell me why you're doing it. She doesn't know why she's doing it right now. I do. Do you? Because she doesn't want to be controlled. And she wants to be loved. And she wants to be loved for herself. When she was growing up, she was loved because she was a good performer. She danced well, or got A's in school, or whatever you did. She was a good girl. And her fear now is that she's unlovable. This came out last time. And she doesn't believe that you love her. We talked about that earlier in the session, right? This is not a good way to go, by the way. It's not a great idea to act out in order to find out if her soulmate loves her.
Right.
I believe it. Go to your head for a minute. Get out of your feelings and go to your head for a minute.
Right.
Does Tom love you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You love her?
I love her.
Yeah. I remember last time. You said it twice.
I love her very much.
I love you too.
Good. Say it again.
I love you.
I
Okay.
guess what I want to know is when that situation occurs, it's very difficult for me to not instantly be overcome with disappointment and not lash out at her and put her
Good.
down.
Okay,
you
well, this
know?
is where the dialogue of intimacy comes in. So what you try to do is you have two choices. You don't have the one you pick, the natural one. it is natural and intuitive for people to be critical and defensive. Critical and defensive. Everybody does that, okay?
Okay.
That's natural. Don't do that. You have two choices. And think about it. Take a beat. One choice is you can say, Sarah, I want to tell you how I feel. Not you're bad, you're wrong, you did the wrong thing, etc.
That's what I
She already
tried to do
knows that.
yesterday.
So let me tell you how I feel. And I'll elaborate that more next week when I give you the dialogue of intimacy exercises, what it means to talk about feelings. That has a very specific meaning in my lexicon. It's not, anger is not a feeling. Inadequacy, feeling inadequate is a feeling. So for her to be able to talk about her feelings, that's the, I lost my thought. What was I saying?
For me to be able to talk about my feelings.
Right. And for you to be able to listen to what goes on inside of her, and for her to be able to, you to be able to talk about
To perceive.
your feelings. Right. So what you, I know what I was saying. So what you have is two choices. The first choice is to try to understand what's going on inside of her. Period. You're in the world of feelings, right? Remember I told you there are 5 methods, 6 methods of communication? Play, talk, information exchange, casual conversation, intellectual discussion, problem solving, and talking and listening, the dialogue of intimacy. When you're in this world of feelings, and that's where I want you to go for the time being. Don't worry about it. We'll solve the other problems as we go along. There's no right, no wrong, no good, no bad, no agenda. No agenda, no agenda. Just trying to understand. Or you have a second choice. And you say to her, sit down, sweetie pie. I want to tell you how I feel. When you do something like that, it makes me feel like I don't count. It makes me feel like you're not interested in what's important to me. It makes me feel like I'm not important. Right?
Isn't that what I told you yesterday when we were by the fountain? Before
Okay.
you know,
Well-
I approached it that way, and
Good.
it was, I was still met with defensiveness.
Okay, we're not going to take care of it in one day.
I know, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. But we'll get there. We'll get there. We still have a few sessions. Can you come next week, next Sunday?
What time?
9:30.
I think that my mom's in town that weekend, and she
Bring her along.
she probably would be interested. She flies out Sunday though, so I
What
think,
time does she fly out
I
on
think
Sunday?
like 5. So I think it should be okay.
9:30. I won't change it, I promise you. 9:30.
It'd be probably better in the morning to come. in.
Okay. And thanks for the switch. That was very nice of the two of you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
But I won't change it next time,
That's
because
fine.
I could tell that that wasn't a smart thing to do.
It's okay.
Okay? So I'll see you next Sunday at 9:30 a.m.
Okay.
Okay? And I'll give you a little homework assignment then.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good week. Huh?
Thank you.
Okay.